So you know how like when you really need to do something and you just absolutely do not want to do it? That's where I am right now. But the girlies need these tips. I left a comment on somebody's page about how I'm going to make a YouTube video of tips for the Busty girls. And it got like nearly 300 likes or something. And I'm just praying that those 300 people come on over and watch this video, because I have been just not in the mood and I really want to get my YouTube channel going. But you know how when your executive function is just like in full dysfunction mode and you have 1 million other things you want to do and everything is a priority but nothing's a priority? That's where I am right now. Anyway, thanks for being here if you're watching. And this is the 10 tips for 10. Sorry. Anyway, 10 tips for crocheters. Making crochet tops for the Busty girls. And this is a series I'll be doing. I have a bunch of tips for different things regarding crochet, and I'm coming in hot, okay? The Busty girls need some tips. Forgive me, because I will be reading my notes so that I do not miss a thing for you, and they're going to be directly above you slightly. So if it looks like I'm looking up, I am, okay? I'm looking at my notes to make sure that I say everything correctly and that I don't skip a step or miss anything. So just bear with me that we're not making eye contact and that I'm not staring into your beautiful eyes, okay? Forgive me, okay? I just need to get you all the tips. All of them. Okay. I know that we all have issues. I'm a double D. It might not look like it in this angle or this dress, but yeah, we all face issues with creating tops for ourselves. Even if you're not considered busty, I'm sure tops are a little bit challenging for you. Not everybody's pattern is made equally, and not everybody is made equally either. So hopefully these tips help you hone in your crochet top making skills and your crochet top customization skills to get the perfect fit and cinched all around you in the right places that you want. So stick around for the tips, okay? Tip number 1, flat cups, flat shapeless cups are not your friend. And this one might seem obvious, but the cups must create an actual cup shape so that when you put it on your breast, it curves to your body. Because flat like a table does not mean it will sit on you, who is, my friend, not flat like a table, correctly. So you need to make sure your cup has a curved shape when it's completed. If you have a flat spaghetti noodle feeling, no support, loose triangle top, for example, at the end of your cup, that is not going to sit right on your body. We'll get to the shapes and the what I suggest in some other steps, but just know, tip number 1, any pattern you see where their cup is laying completely perfectly flat, that may not be the pattern for you, or you may want to utilize some of the customization tips that I give you later. Tip number 2, if you're doing a triangle top, this will help you with customization. The starting chain must go from your underbust directly under here to your nip, to this dead center like a bullseye. So your chain needs to go from under your underbust directly to your nip. No ifs, ands, or buts. And if your breasts are 2 different sizes that are noticeable, I would suggest measuring them both separately and not creating your cups based on evenness, but your size based on your body, because it may end up being significantly more comfortable. The fit may sit on you better, and then you may be able to just get away with having the cups slightly different sizes, maybe even 1 or 2 stitches different, because it will look right on your body. The illusion will look right. I've only had this happen to me one time, a custom for one client, so I know it exists, and it ended up looking more form-fitting and more comfortable on her when I did, just say for example, I think I did 13 stitches for the starting chain on one breast, and on the other breast I did 11. So at the end, the final row, I made them have the same amount of stitches in the final row, but the ones that were directly above her nips were slightly different, and you couldn't tell in the end. I wish I had a picture, but this client is not the kind of person to send me pictures and then let me show them to the internet, which I 100% respect, and I will never violate that. But she did show me a picture, and you cannot even tell. The illusion is created, and it looks beautiful on her and tight and form-fitting. So keep that in mind. The chain must go from under bust to nip. And then for if you decide to do triangle cups sideways, so the tips are in the center, I would suggest measuring from the side over here to where maybe you're on my lap, to maybe where your underwire would sit on the side to your nip. And that will give you a better, more accurate fit if your triangle top is going to go this way, horizontally instead of vertically. Tip number 3, my personal favorite shape for large cup sizes is the square. And I know that sounds very weird, but you create a square, and then the piece that attaches to it creates the cup that sits and holds your bust very nicely. And I have found that in my own personal experience, as well as making tops for other people, that shape works extremely well for a large bust. It makes it so that you get a little bit of hug, and you could, with straps, you get the lift. And oh my goodness, I didn't make a tip for straps. That might have to be a whole nother video. Whoa. Okay, I'm so sorry, but I'll have to do tips for straps in a different video. Anyway, but with straps, even if they tie around your neck, which aren't always the most comfortable for the busty girls, I do have a solution, so stay tuned for that video for straps for busty girls. But with the straps and the square that cups you will find so much more comfort with the square style. And I'll put in a picture of what I mean. Like, for example, the Fiji top that I created, that again later you'll see a video for. It's the best shape, and there's tons of YouTube videos by TCD DIY. T at TCD DIY has very cute and even some gorgeous dresses and tops that you should check out with that square shape. And I'll insert a picture, or you should have already seen one. And yeah, so square is one of the best shapes for large busts. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4, if you have a band that goes around your underbust, be sure that that line that is directly underneath your bust is just slightly tighter than the rest of the piece. So you can do this by decreasing your hook a whole or half size down, doing the very first row that's under your bust in that smaller hook, and then that very next row switching back, or even doing 2 rows in that smaller hook size and then switching back up, so that you don't shrink the underbust portion too much, because it still has to fit the rest of your body, which will increase typically. Our waists increase as we go down, so it's best to switch back to your normal hook. For some people, it may not affect you, and you can just keep going with the underbust a little bit tighter than what you did for the cups. But I would suggest just those first 1 or 2 rows right at the very underbust that give you almost like a cinching, almost like you used an underwire. And that will cinch in just the bottom of your top to bring it in. And the best example I can think of for this would be, for example, Passionate Kelsey. She has a pattern that is just a triangle top and then the bust that goes around, or a piece that goes around. And for me, I would probably make the first 2 rows of the part that goes around just in the smaller hook, so that I got a little bit more hug and a little bit more lift and tightness there. And this may not work for every pattern, because every pattern is different, but it is something to consider and even experiment with if you have the time and the patience. Tip number 5. consider using an underwire. In the dress that I made, that I tested for Elena at Cherries in May, I'm sure you've seen her beautiful Venus Waves dress all over the internet, breaking the internet nearly. It's a gorgeous piece, form-fitting, hugging for every shape and size. And for busty girls, utilizing the underwire is so beautiful and lifts and hugs, and it's stunning. So that pattern will be released shortly. It is currently in testing. It's September 6th and it's still in testing. So maybe when this video is actually released, it'll be released, but I don't believe so. I think I'm going to put this out like as soon as I possibly can. So it'll likely still be in testing. So you won't be able to purchase it yet, but it is available for you to check out all of her images, and it should be out by the end of September, I'm thinking. Don't quote me though. So you can check that out and kind of get a feel for what I mean. But just like wearing a really, really high quality dress, some of those dresses have the underwire built in and it feels amazing. Thick fabric that holds you in. And if you were to crochet this piece, for example, you would definitely feel that high quality form fitting feel utilizing the underwire. And with back ties and front ties to really suck it up and hug you all in, it feels really great too. Hopefully I will be able to insert a picture of my own into the video if I'm finished, but I'm not sure that it will be. I have a ton of other things going on. So anyway, consider using an underwire. Tip number 6. For triangle tops, make your cups. Then, using a smaller hook, line the edges with a single crochet or a slip stitch, depending on how. This is best if your cups come out too large already, or if you just need a little extra hug around the edges of your top. I don't have an example for you, but the best thing would be if you created a triangle top and you were like, I do not want to undo this whole thing. I just don't. But you know you're busty, and you know you'll have a little bit of grace if you just tighten in the edges. I would do that very last row. Maybe take out the very last row, and instead of the very last row, do a smaller stitch so you don't have as high of a top and it does tighten it. Or you can just line that very last row with a single crochet or slip stitch and it will cinch in naturally because those stitches are just naturally tighter. And you'll feel like it created a pocket for your breast to sit in. And if it's, I've only done this once. I'm sorry, I don't believe I'll have a picture for you for this one either, but it does make your, so imagine you have a triangle and then you just lined it and it creates like a pocket so that your breast can sit in the pocket, and it's very nice and very comfortable. So I think you'll find that that might be a solution if you've already created the cups and you just don't want to go back, because there's tons of times we experience that where you're just trying to find other solutions to rectify your mistake without spending sometimes 2 hours. It can do, well, to make 2 cups, depending on your size, if you're busty. So we're going to say 1.5 hours to 2 hours for most people to make full cups that cover. And once you get to the end of that, you do not want to unravel. So give this one a shot. Lining those cups with a single crochet or a slip stitch, it'll just make a pocket for your breast to sit in, and then you'll have the cinching around the edges, and then along with the straps or whatever you do to keep it on, it should work out in the end. And number 7, consider styles that already work for your body and try to replicate that. So this way, like it seems obvious kind of, but the one thing I used to do is try things for much smaller bust sizes, even when they had sizing and matched what I would wear. So like, for example, like I would see stuff maybe on like a runway or like a really thin person, and I would try to figure out like, how can I modify that to make it work for my body? As a busty girl, you know, some things are just not going to work. Having one string go around your neck and holding on all day, that's probably not going to happen comfortably. I mean, it can happen and you might just power through it just like some women do with high heels. But, you know, your neck chafing and getting scraped up and basically rope burn all day from a strap that just goes around or ties is not necessarily the most comfortable. So there are times where I would try to duplicate something that I saw or manipulate it in a way where I make that strap thicker, or maybe I make the cup size long, or the cup size bigger, or the skirt longer, for example. So consider the styles that you already like, and maybe they're already in your closet and you just want to replicate something that you have in your closet. Try that. As long as you try to make it your own and add your own zest to it, you could even sell that pattern later. And I'm not saying copy another crochet artist's work. Don't do that. That's messed up. Don't do that. But what I'm saying is, if you see somebody else's work, or even a dress in a department store that you really like, you could even go up to the dress and measure it and try on the dress and see how it feels on you and see what you like about it, and then take some of those elements and put them into your work. And typically you can do this when you find garments that you really like, which you should already have in your closet. I really hope you have clothing that you like in your closet, because this will help you along so much. And like, for example, I really like tube tops, right? I love how they look on people who can wear them. But you might look at me and be like, oh, you could wear a tube top. But like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that because I don't feel comfortable in them. I am crazy. I bang my hands on stuff. I wave my hands around. I'm a sign language interpreter. I move around a lot. I talk with my hands. I would just not feel comfortable wearing a tube top, especially if it weren't like custom made for me with all of the right everything in there. And so with a tube top, I might consider putting underwire in if I were to make one myself. So there's just like the little things. You don't wear tube tops. Why would you make one? And that's why I haven't yet. But now, even just doing this video, I'm considering, maybe I could do underwire for it, because I have tried, and even with doing tighter, I tried a little like a bandeau top once, and my ladies just do not sit in a way where I am comfortable in a tube top like that. Maybe I'll try underwire. Anyway, trying to make sure that you consider the styles that you already like, that you're already comfortable in, and trying to duplicate them, even measuring what you have, even taking elements from pieces that you have made prior and combining them with a bunch of different elements that you do like. And that will really set you off into the path of creating something that you dream of. Tip number 8. If your top just feels off in size and shape, this may mean you need to just use a different hook altogether, a different yarn altogether. And this might seem like common sense, but especially if you're brand new or the pattern's written in a certain way, you can't just change the hook and then not change the yarn sometimes. But also, it may be, this is kind of like 2 in 1, it may be important for you to consider the body of the individual who created that pattern. I've purchased a pattern from a designer and all it said was extra small. And I messaged her and I asked her, do you have other sizes? And she said, oh, I can send you your money back. She didn't even try to explain or give me tips on how to create it in a larger size myself. This artist has since started to be more inclusive. And there's still somebody that I follow and I really admire their work. But as a new pattern buyer at the time, it was really discouraging. And I since then have never purchased one of their patterns ever again. Am I mad? No. But it is important to consider the body of the person that made the pattern, whether or not they have curves, and how that piece falls on their body. So, for example, again, this is not shade at all, because I created this piece. I love it, and I'll never stop putting it on my page. The Halo dress by Namaste and Crochet, she is very slender, and she doesn't have as many curves as me, and that's just a fact. And so I look at her pattern, and I look at her dress, and in her dress, it's beautifully form-fitting, lovely drape. It hangs beautifully on her. It's stunning. And when I look at her pattern, there's a part from the waist to the hips. Her pattern, it's written as a straight tube, but that's not necessarily how it looks on her body. And so what I did is I took my own spreadsheet that calculates pattern grading for me, and I put in my numbers, and then I put in my desired numbers, and I was able to figure out the increases in stitches that I needed from my waist to my hips to give me that same look that she has in her dress, where I didn't have to create a drawstring and gather 20 inches of fabric around my waist, because I have 20 inches of difference between my waist and my hips. So my waist is 26 inches and my hips are 42 inches. And although, of course, it's not like perfectly 20 inches, but still, it's enough that the amount of fabric that would be gathered at my waist that I would then have to like spread out around my waist would look, to me, tacky. And I wasn't willing to do that for one, spending this much time on a dress that looks this beautiful. And two, for just looking like a sack. I don't want to look like that. So I created the pattern grading spreadsheets so that I could quickly figure out how many stitches I would need to do in a pattern that does not have it written. And it turned out amazing. And I'll insert a video or a picture so you can see what it looks like. And I'll insert a picture of Dominique so you can see how hers drapes. And hers does not have a drawstring. It might actually, but I don't think it does. When I saw her turn around, I don't think I saw a drawstring. So hers just sits on her body beautifully. And I wanted that. I didn't want to have a drawstring. So it's important to consider the body that you're buying from also, because that can significantly impact whether or not the piece is going to turn out the way you dream it's going to turn out. And I will be putting that spreadsheet up for sale. It has like all these instructions, and it will come with a video instructions on how to use it specifically. So yeah, consider that. Look out for that. It's not available yet. I'm still working on like the video and stuff, because you could tell I'm not feeling it today. That's why we're in my bed. And if you don't care, I don't care, because you're getting the tips, baby. Okay, anyway. Tip number 9. You may have to consider the back of the piece more than the front. So sometimes the back is what ruins your piece. You might put it up to yourself and you're like, what the heck, why doesn't this fit? And then in the back, it's like completely baggy. So it may be best for you, if you're a busty girl, to have an open back so that you can create ties. Because if you're like me, you might be a little squishy. And your squishiness may impact how things fit you over time. Your squishiness may change. You may not have like hard, dense muscle. You see, like I have a muscle, but when I squeeze it, there's a little fingerprints in there. So like you might be a little squishy like me, and I'm like that around all of my body. I have some firmness and some squishiness, but typically around my back and under my bust, even though this is directly on my ribs, I have a lot of squishiness. And so that means that when I create a piece, my back might end up being very baggy, and it ruins it. It ruins the whole thing. So you may want to leave an open back so that you can create corset ties. You can put a zipper. You can put adjustable hooks, kind of like how bras have. You can put those adjustable hook and eyelet clasp thingies. You can do different things to cinch in your back and leave it open so that you have space to like grow and change and move. And then if you do lose weight, that piece may still fit you later. Although I know if you're like me and you're a busty girl, you lose all the weight in your good parts before in the parts that you want. But anyway, that's beside the point. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. So that's tip number 9, is just consider the back of the piece and maybe consider leaving it open. And then also one more tip that's kind of within this, consider the back, is just making sure that if you're duplicating something, or if you have a top that you really like the fit, line up the armpit with where you put the armpit on your piece. This will really help you get the proportions right. And even with measuring and then you're like, oh, I just split in half. That's not always the case. Some people are truly big backed, and it just means your back is actually larger than your front. And you really want to know what the distance between here all the way to the back around to here is compared to the distance around here. And you want to make sure that they're that you document them and save them so that you get, if you do make a piece that's all the way around and you want it to be form-fitting, you really have the distance between those side seam edges. Sometimes this might not matter if your piece is completely circular, but I've never really found that it didn't matter. If your back is bigger and then once your arms come into play, you really, really want to make sure that you have like at least the distance from this armpit to this armpit, and then around your back, it could be bigger because your bones could stick out more. You could have more bulge back there. You could have less bulge back there. Who knows? All bodies are different, and it's just important to consider the back of the piece and the distance between your armpits. It's really important. And if you have certain parts of your body that might be bigger in the back or smaller in the back, it's important to consider that too, whether or not you need to increase or decrease over those specific parts, because it might matter. It's really important to think about your whole body and not just look at a piece that you like and then just get it, because it may just not work for you the way that that piece is written. Number 10, you may have to make the supports on the side of your piece tighter and more sturdy than the rest of the piece for the support. And again, a smaller hook or single crochets might be your best option. So say you have a piece with like triangle cups, and you want to do something maybe like where the straps come off and tie in the back, or the sides are completely closed. There's like a full attachment to the sides of your piece, and I'll insert a picture because my description is terrible, but I'll insert a picture of what I mean. So if you have a piece like this, then you want to make sure that you use a tighter, smaller hook so that you get more support. Tighter, smaller, stitches more close together, tighter fabric, stronger fabric, and that will mean a stronger grip, a stronger cinch. And you don't always want that kind of tightness on the actual cup, but having it in the supports kind of gives you the corset feel, or a corset support. So I'm sorry again, remember you're on my lap. Love you so much. So that just means that you'll be able to feel a little bit of hug and a little bit of support. And that may be crucial to your underbust as well. That is the 10 tips, but guess what? I have a few more for you. I have some bonus tips because there were so many things that I was thinking of when I did this, and I just couldn't leave you hanging and only do these 10. Number 11. You may find that the cups sit in your armpits and your ladies want to fall out of the middle. This is an issue with both the front and the back being too big. It's possibly just the front, but usually both pieces. If you have your cups all the way, like maybe your cups are too wide, and then your back, and you're just falling out of the center, it may be that both the front and the back are too big. So again, it may be that you need to reduce your rows in your triangle top, or you need to cinch in the back, have an open back, utilize the tips that are above. Another bonus tip is ties are your friend, of course, like having multiple ties or multiple opening spots, so that like ties on the front are your friend, ties on the side, ties in the back, having ties so that you can just cinch. And that might seem like it's a lot of work or like a lot to put on. Once you have it on though, you're good, right? You don't have to take it on and off depending on what you're doing in life with it. You should be just like leaving it on, right? Especially for festival wear. But who knows? I don't know your life. You could be taking it on and off. But then I just would suggest maybe, because crochet items are so form-fitting and can be so cumbersome sometimes when you put them on and off when they have ties, that you just may not want to wear it for that specific occasion. Due to like the fact that we fluctuate in weight so much, and crochet pieces don't take a short amount of time, it is best to give yourself versatility in your piece. So making it so that you have a lot of space to grow or shrink, then you'll be able to utilize that piece for a really long time and you won't have to get rid of it. I think I have 2 more. My bonus tip number 13. Using a smaller hook will usually make for more comfortable form fitting and is less likely to become misshapen after like a year, after one wear, or after even a short period of time. And my favorite cotton yarn to use is anything stretchy or cotton. I will insert a few brands for you to see, but I'll also mention them. Elise Diva Stretch, Cascade Fixation, and Celinda Himalayan stretch yarn, or Himalaya stretch yarn. Those are my favorite stretchy yarns. I've used them in so many patterns now that I wouldn't change anything about using stretchy yarn. Even in patterns that say like, oh, this pattern is already stretchy, maybe don't use a stretchy yarn. These 3 yarns are still amazing. Sometimes I double strand them, sometimes I use them as they are single stranded. So that's really up to you to experiment with. But using cotton or stretchy yarn, it's my absolute favorite. And I say cotton because if you use the right cotton with the right stitches and you have the right tension and your stitches are close together and they're very locked in and you block it, your piece should last you a really good long time. I will do a 10 tips on maintenance and care for your crochet items, so look out for that. But there is obviously a certain way you should be taking care of these items after the fact, but the best way to get the most comfortable form fitting is to utilize stretchy yarn, small hook, tight stitches, and or cotton. It's the best way. And so far I haven't found a cotton stretch blend. I'm kind of sad about that. They're all like acrylic polyester blends. Sorry, I keep yawning. I'll cut a few out, but you know, again, like I said, I have just not been feeling it. I'm working on a pattern right now, and this one you'll see, it might actually be released before this video or right after this video, so check it out. It'll be the seamless velvet crochet hoodie, and it will have a pocket. So that's why I'm calling it seamless, because the pocket is not created separately, or like you do not sew the pattern onto the pocket. So I know that sounds weird, but check out the video and you'll see what it's all about. I hated the idea of sewing the pocket on, so this is what I came up with. Bonus 14, thicker straps and thicker bands will make wearing your piece so much more comfortable. You may even want to consider finding actual bathing suit straps for the comfortability, and even covering bathing suit straps with fabric, or using those thick elastic bands and covering those with fabric, or covering those with crochet to utilize them in your pattern so that your straps are so much more comfortable. My last and final tip, and this one may be like pretty obvious, but avoid using overly stretchy or flimsy stitches that may not provide adequate support. And I know that sounds like duh, but the amount of stuff I've seen, like even sometimes double crochets aren't good enough. If you're using a 5mm hook, like that's not gonna hold your boobs up. Don't do that, okay? Because you'll be very upset that you did that and you got no support. So this is like all of the tips I could possibly think of that would really, really help you create form-fitting, more customized, more natural looking, more body hugging, comfortable overall tops for my busty girls. I know that this isn't like an end-all be-all. I was totally kidding about breaking the internet, but I really hope this genuinely helps someone. If it helps one person, thank you. And you're welcome. No, I'm just kidding. But if this helps one person, I'll be really happy. I think that's really awesome. And these are all things that I've learned over 10 years of crocheting. And eventually I'll show you a video of like everything I've ever made. Well, everything I've ever made for myself, excluding a few things because I gave away or sold some. And then there's like pieces that I've sold that clients do not want me to show, as they're like maybe like they created an idea with me and it's their thing and I wouldn't give it away, or I have like a replication of it and I would show like my version but not theirs. So there's a few things that I could show you so you could see my work, but I heavily rely on thinking about all of these things. And it's cool that I wrote them in a list, because now I can check myself and be like, girl, you wrote this on your own top tips. So why did you not do that? I can scold myself with this list. So I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope you're feeling my coziness. I'm so sorry that this wasn't more upbeat and lively. This is just my bedroom in my parents' house. My RV is in the shop, and I will be back in my RV shortly. That's why it's been a little while since you've seen me, because I'm just dealing with lots of stuff right now. But if you want to follow me on my other socials, I am Mermaid Overland Designs on Instagram, and from there you can find my personal page. I am also Mermaid Overland on TikTok, and I have some cool story times and videos and images and stuff of things that I'm working on, and just other more life randomness on TikTok. So if you want to get into that, you can see it. That's it. I shall talk to you later. Bye.